The whirring pulse of the stabilizer bed was the only sound in the medbay. Blue light shimmered off the polished steel walls, cold and quiet like the deep space outside. Kara Voss adjusted the oxygen regulator on the ambassador's mask with practiced hands, her face calm, unreadable. The ambassador's translucent skin was ruptured in 6 places. 3 internal bleeds. 1 failed organ. 2 hours to live, if that. Kara didn't flinch. She never did. Vitals steady, she muttered, speaking into the diagnostic node at her collar. Respiration normalized. Beginning cell matrix regen. The computer chirped its response. She didn't listen. Her eyes had already moved to the subtle blink of a security sensor in the far corner. It was off. Not malfunctioning. Not broken. Just off. And Kara hadn't turned it off. Her fingers never paused. She reached for the surgical foam, injected it into the ambassador's abdominal laceration, and let it spread. Then she stood still. Completely still. Someone was inside the facility. The thought didn't cause panic. Instead, something older, colder surfaced. The part of her brain trained not in healing, but in elimination. She walked to the sterilization unit and opened the lower tray. Inside, beneath a neatly stacked set of scalpels, was a matte black injector the size of a finger. She slid it into her sleeve and returned to her patient. No alarms. No running. No outward sign she knew. Across the compound, tucked into the bone of Arcturon 7's cliffs, a silhouette watched the feed through a distorted visor. Saren Threx frowned. She didn't even blink. He replayed the footage again. The angle was rough. He'd tapped into an auxiliary maintenance drone. Still, it showed her checking the patient, noticing the camera, and nothing. Not a tremble. Not a look over the shoulder. She's either the dumbest nurse in the galaxy, or the most dangerous. He preferred the first option. It made the kill easier. Saren reached into his duffel, pulled out a thin neuroblade, and strapped it to his thigh. One cut, between the 3rd and 4th vertebrae, and she'd never even realize it. Then he'd clean the data trail, extract the ambassador's pulse seal, and vanish before the next shift clocked in. Simple. He was good at simple. Back in the medbay, Kara rolled her shoulder. Pain pulsed where the burned scar met bone, a leftover from Solstice Bay. She told the AI to dim the lights by 20% and powered down the main scanner. If someone was coming, she didn't want them seeing what she was doing. Or what she wasn't doing. Behind her, the ambassador stirred. A low, guttural clicking rose from his throat. Kara turned, wiped the sweat from his brow, or what counted as one, and pressed 2 fingers to the translator embedded at his clavicle. "You're safe," she said quietly. "Sleep." The translator didn't activate, but she knew he understood. The breathing slowed. Trust, or exhaustion, took hold. Then she opened the floor panel beneath the bed. A burst of cold air hissed upward. Inside was a secondary power module wired into the command systems. Kara pulled a fiber cable from her coat and attached it. Her visor flashed as manual override permissions lit her vision. She bypassed main security and entered a dormant subroutine marked Theta B. Unauthorized access detected. Manual confirmation required. She placed her thumb against the reader. Access granted? Welcome, Lieutenant. For the first time in years, she allowed herself a breath. Not relief, focus. A soft footfall echoed in the corridor beyond. Just one. She dimmed the lights completely. In the dark, Kara moved like a shadow. She shifted the tray on the surgical station, just enough so its magnetic lock would click when touched. She placed a vial near the sink, the kind that shattered with vibration. Then she waited. The door hissed open. She didn't turn. Saren stepped in, quiet, professional. He scanned the room once. His HUD filtered the dark, painting everything in outlines. One patient. One nurse. Her back to him. Perfect. He stepped forward, blade in hand, silent as thought. Then the tray fell. It wasn't loud, just wrong. A metal tap, not consistent with the silent stillness of a medbay. He froze. Kara moved. She ducked under the incoming blade, twisted, and drove her elbow into his side. He staggered. She lunged, syringe in hand, but he deflected it, twisting her wrist and slamming her against the surgical unit. The vial cracked behind them. Saren smirked. Not bad for a nurse. Kara didn't answer. She pressed her hand to the console behind her, and the emergency shield activated. A force field snapped across the door. He stepped back, blade ready. You're not listed on any combat rosters. Who trained you? Kara flexed her hand, revealing the cracked syringe. Not your concern. Saren's eyes narrowed. That wasn't a neurostim. No, she said. It was a marker. He looked down. Faint red light pulsed across his sleeve. You tagged me? You entered a medical facility, she replied. That makes you a patient. Saren lunged again, but she ducked, grabbed a defibrillator paddle, and slammed it into his arm. His muscles seized. Not enough to knock him out, but enough to buy her seconds. She ran. Out the medbay, down the steel corridor slick with recycled condensation. Her lungs burned. She didn't stop. Saren recovered fast. Too fast. He tore the stim patches off his neck and triggered a second wind boost. His body surged with energy. His vision turned sharper. You can't outrun me, he hissed into the dark. Kara reached the junction and tapped her badge to the console. A hidden panel opened. Inside, not a weapon. A tablet. A map. Security feeds. Movement logs. She wasn't running. She was watching. Saren rounded the corner, but the hallway had changed. Light panels flickered. Floor panels buckled. His HUD glitched. Behind him, a soft voice echoed from a speaker. Still think I'm just a nurse? Then the lights died completely. The darkness was total. The emergency lights hadn't just failed, they'd been overridden. Saren's HUD flickered, confused by the scrambled inputs. Pulse readings, atmospheric pressure, thermal scans, all distorted. He tapped his wrist console. Nothing. She'd blacked the entire grid. He crouched low, pressing 2 fingers to the floor. Warm. She'd passed through recently. But she was moving deliberately, not fleeing. Setting the stage. He grinned. Smart girl, he whispered. But it's still a cage. Behind him, a sudden click snapped through the air, metallic, sharp. Saren spun, blade ready. Nothing. Another click, above this time. Then a low vibration underfoot. Subsonic pulses. Medical-grade audio disruptors. Enough to confuse balance. He steadied himself, slowed his breathing, and let instinct lead. It wasn't his first time being hunted. But it was the first time it happened in a hospital. Kara crouched behind the coolant coils in the maintenance bay, her hands steady as she rewired a thermal conduit into the backup grid. Her knuckles were bruised, her shoulder ached, and she could still taste iron from the impact earlier. But her mind was razor-sharp. Saren's profile had matched 2 possible threats: high-speed infiltration and assassination cycles, trained by Vectari mercenary guilds, which meant he'd rely on stealth, patience, and precision. So she gave him the opposite, uncertainty. She tapped her badge twice. The system whispered back with a low chime. Status confirmed. Deter activated. Then she moved again. Saren found the med lab door open. Odd. She had locked it earlier. Had she doubled back? Cautiously, he entered. A tray of surgical tools lay scattered on the floor. Nothing out of place at first glance, but his eyes picked up the irregular shadow of the 4-stand. It was pointed at the wrong angle, as if someone had moved it, then forgot the original position. Trap. He stepped back, too late. The floor jolted. A burst of gas hissed from vents above. He leapt sideways, hand over mouth, blade slicing through the incoming mist. Adrenaline pumped, reflexes surged. He landed hard, right onto a surgical harness that clamped around his chest. Steel arms wrapped tight. Son of a... A hidden speaker crackled. You like precision, Kara's voice said calmly. So do I. Ever dissect a Vectari neurospine? I have. It screams for hours if you miss the third node. Saren roared, twisting hard. His arm bent just far enough to slam a blade into the locking mechanism. Sparks flew. The harness burst open. He rolled to his feet, coughing. Cute trick, he said aloud. But I'm not the one bleeding. Kara leaned against the service duct, breathing slowly. Her side throbbed, cracked rib maybe. Didn't matter. She'd bought herself 90 seconds. She reviewed the surveillance feed again. Saren was adapting faster than expected. He hadn't panicked when trapped. He hadn't run. Which meant she needed to shift tactics. She didn't need him dead, not yet. She needed answers. Why her? Why now? What did he think she knew? She rerouted power to the hydro chamber. The quietest place in the compound. Thick steam. Slippery floors. Low visibility. And, most importantly, a dead zone in the Federation's long-range scanners. If he followed, she'd make sure he never left. Saren wiped blood from his lip and surveyed the carnage in the med lab. He'd underestimated her once. Not again. She was wounded, but fighting. That told him one thing: she wasn't scared. Worse, she was trained. Not combat medic trained. Not even Federation Spec Op trained. She moved like his kind, but smarter. More patient. You're not a nurse, he muttered. You're bait. He grinned. And he was still hungry. He followed her heat trail, which disappeared near the hydro wing. Of course. A classic fallback location. He flipped on his thermal, then disabled it. She'd expect that. Time to go analog. He stepped inside. Humidity hit like a wall. Moisture clung to his suit, fogging the visor, sliding down the seams of his armor. Pipes hissed above. Water trickled somewhere in the distance. He moved in silence, blade reversed in his hand. She was here. Steam shifted on his right. A whisper of movement. He lunged, sliced through mist, hit only metal. Another step, and something whistled past his ear. A needle embedded in the wall next to him. He turned fast, caught a glimpse. She was smiling. You're slowing down, she said softly. He charged, slicing across her path, but again too late. She vanished behind the steam columns, leaving only footprints that vanished in seconds. She was baiting him. Enough games, he shouted. You're alone. You're bleeding. And I don't miss twice. From behind him. Then you should have made the first one count. He turned, she struck. Not with a blade, but with a pulse injector straight to his neck. His vision flared white. He staggered, slammed her into the wall, but she was already pulling back, vanishing again. The serum hit his bloodstream. Not lethal, just enough to scramble equilibrium. For 10 minutes. He slumped to one knee. Gasping. Dizzy. You think this wins you something? He said, coughing. It buys me time, Kara replied, her voice echoing from a dozen speakers. And answers. He tried standing, failed. Who sent you? She asked. You really think I'll tell you? I don't need you to tell me, she said. I just need your signal trace. His eyes widened. You jacked my comm. Back in the medbay. When I missed with the syringe. She was never aiming for his neck. You marked me. And now the Federation will find out who hired you, she said. Because if I'm a target, others are next. He snarled. You just made yourself a priority. I always was, Kara replied coldly. You were just the last one to notice. He lunged again, wild, but she was gone. Only mist remained. And his tracker now blinked on an open network. Broadcasting. Everywhere. The hallway lights sputtered as Saren staggered out of the hydro chamber, soaked and furious. His breath rasped in uneven bursts, boots squealing over the slick floor. The pulse serum was wearing off, but the disorientation lingered like fog in his brain. His visor had cleared. His systems were online. Yet he felt hunted. No, he thought. I'm not prey. But the red indicator flashing in his HUD said otherwise. Tracked. Tagged. Exposed. She had broadcast his location across all Federation channels using his own signal. And if the Federation was listening, if they believed she was the leak, they'd send others. Which meant Kara wasn't running for survival. She was running for position. Saren didn't admire many people. But this one? She was building a trap inside a tomb. And he was already halfway buried. Kara leaned against the wall of the engineering bay, watching his movements on a flickering console. She'd hardwired the tracker data into the abandoned repair drones still circling the facility. Each was feeding his exact location, every misstep. But it wasn't enough to know where he was. She needed to know why. She accessed the compound's declassified records. Standard encryption. Nothing there explained a hit on her name. Then she tried the restricted tier, buried under old war logs. The files hadn't been opened in months, until 3 days ago. A stealth admin login. No trace of origin. The last file accessed? Operation Deadlock. Her hands froze. That project had been scrubbed years ago. Officially erased. Only 10 people knew it ever existed. She was one of them. Saren hadn't come for a nurse. He'd come for the last witness. Saren tore open the infirmary's supply cabinet, stripping gauze from its rack. He wrapped his shoulder and practiced silence, ignoring the sting from Kara's earlier strike. He wasn't bleeding badly, but he was bleeding. Which meant she'd drawn first and second blood. He couldn't afford a third. He pulled a mirror shard from the wall panel and examined his eye. Pupils normal. Response lagging. Nothing permanent. Still, her dose had been exact, enough to shake his rhythm, delay reflexes. Whoever trained her taught precision. He tapped his wrist. Time to go old school. He rerouted his comms to silent beacon mode and initiated Falcon Sweep, a Vectari hunt pattern. The algorithm mapped her last 6 movements and calculated the next possible 3. She was either in the engineering bay or the gravity chamber. He chose the latter. She'd think he'd go for the obvious. So would he. The gravity chamber's outer locks hissed as Saren approached. His boots clanked against reinforced steel, and the sensors detected no other heat signatures inside. That didn't mean she wasn't here. Just that she didn't want to be seen. He stepped through. The room was massive, filled with suspended platforms rotating slowly in artificial gravity flux. Broken tiles floated mid-air before being sucked down again in rhythmic bursts. Every few seconds the force reversed, flipping the debris skyward. Saren blinked. This wasn't a hiding spot. It was an arena. A sharp clang behind him, he spun. Nothing. Then, above, a figure dropped. Kara landed 2 meters away, low, steady, silent. No weapons in hand. Just a look in her eyes that didn't belong to a nurse. Back where we started, she said. Saren didn't answer. He lunged. She dodged cleanly, using the sudden gravity reversal to vault upward. He followed, gripping a support beam and pulling himself through the air like a diver. They collided mid-spin. Fists, knees, elbows. The fight was brutal, fast, close. No wasted movement. No taunts. Just damage. Saren drove his knee into her side, cracked rib flared, but she rolled with it, catching his arm and wrenching him into a low-gravity spin that slammed him against the support rail. He gasped. She didn't wait. She threw a short blade. It clipped his visor, shattering half the display. Sparks spat across his cheek. He roared, blood trailing in a red arc. "You're better than the file said," he growled, wiping his mouth. "I read yours too," she said. "You always kill fast. This is taking you too long." Saren laughed once, low and dangerous. "You think you're winning? I already did." He stopped smiling. Then the chamber pulsed, the gravity cycle stuttered. His boots lifted. Kara had overridden the sequence. "You rigged the generator?" "I own the generator," she said. Then she vanished, pulled upward as the gravity flipped completely. Saren's body slammed into the ceiling before reversing again, driving him into the floor with bone-cracking weight. She reappeared behind him. He turned, just in time to see the injector slam into his thigh. The needle hissed. His body spasmed. Not paralysis, something more subtle. A silencer. His HUD blinked. Gone. His audio link gone. No input. No output. Just him, alone, locked in. What did you do? He croaked, stumbling. Disabled your rig, she said, stepping back. He lunged, slower now, desperate. She caught him in a throw, rolled him hard across the steel plating, and pinned him with her knee on his chest. You had your shot, she said, eyes cold. This isn't over, he gasped. She leaned close. It is for you. Then she raised her wrist and tapped the final command into her interface. The chamber locked. Doors sealed. Emergency beacon triggered. Saren's eyes widened. You're not killing me? No, she said, standing. I'm delivering you. She walked away. And for the first time in his career, Saren Threx realized what it felt like to lose. Saren woke to a dull, rhythmic beep and the sterile glow of surgical lamps. His limbs felt heavy. Not from pain, from containment. He blinked. His arms were restrained, his ankles bound. He wasn't in a prison. He was back in the medbay. His own pulse monitor confirmed it. Still alive, Kara's voice said softly from beside him. Disappointing. She stepped into view, surgical coat pristine, gloves already on. No visible weapons. No combat gear. Just a nurse with a clipboard, and absolute control. Saren tried to move, but the restraints didn't budge. Don't bother, she added. You've got a double-layer field lock and a dermal anchor cuff. You move, it tightens. He licked dry lips. If you were going to kill me, you'd have done it already. She looked at him for a long moment. True. He swallowed. Then why am I still breathing? Kara raised a brow. Because I don't want you dead. Saren laughed, rough and hoarse. That's rich. You dropped me from gravity control, disabled my rig, dragged me back here, and now we're just, what? Debriefing? No, she said, stepping closer. I'm logging the last confession of a mercenary assassin before he disappears into a Federation black site. His expression darkened. You have no idea who I work for. I don't need to. Your pulse signature was enough. Federation Command picked up the signal 2 hours ago. They know what you are. What they don't know, yet, is why. She tapped the display by his bedside. A waveform flickered, voice capture engaged. This is Kara Voss, she stated calmly. Lieutenant, Human Vanguard Corps. Recording interrogation under Protocol 17. Saren stared. There's no such protocol. There is now. She stepped beside the table, picked up a scalpel, and twirled it slowly between her fingers, not threatening, but familiar. You don't know what you're part of, he said. Then enlighten me. He didn't speak. Not right away. So she leaned in and whispered, Operation Deadlock. Saren flinched. Just barely. But enough. That got your attention. You were part of it, he said slowly. She nodded. And you were sent to erase the last name on that list. He hesitated, then said, You're not on any list. Kara tilted her head. I erased it myself. He narrowed his eyes. So you're not just the leak. You're the fail-safe. I was the witness, she said. I saw what they did. What we were ordered to do. And I ran the clean-up detail that ended with everyone being declared dead, including me. Saren looked at her differently now. Not like prey. Like a mirror. They buried it deep, he said. And someone still came looking, she replied. He shifted slightly against the restraints. You think the Federation's going to protect you after this? I don't care, she said. But they'll interrogate you. And through you, they'll find the others. They'll kill me before I leave this base. They might, Kara said, turning to the console. But they won't get to you before I do something permanent. Saren's throat tightened. Like what? She reached into a drawer and pulled out a small vial, translucent, faintly blue. Nanophage serum. Custom coated. Not lethal, just persistent. It bonds to neural tissue. Every time you think about deadlock, the pain will remind you. He stared at it. You're bluffing. She loaded it into the injector. I used to believe in straight kills, she said. Until I realized pain teaches better than death. You're crossing lines. No, she said. You crossed the line when you came for me in a hospital and threatened a patient to get to me. This isn't revenge, Saren. It's justice. Slow, quiet justice. She pressed the injector to his neck. He flinched. Then stilled. I'll talk, he said. Kara paused. Names? She demanded. He looked at her, voice low. I don't know who gave the order. Only that it came through Quorum 7. A shadow directive inside Federation intelligence. They marked you as a dead asset gone rogue. I was just the cleaner. Kara's expression didn't change. And the ambassador? She asked. Collateral. You were the target. He was just in the way. Kara inhaled. Not deep. Just enough. Then she stepped back, dropped the injector into the disposal bin, and tapped the console. The lights dimmed. Federation extraction team arrives in 6 hours, she said. You'll be sedated for the transfer. After that, you're not my problem. Saren looked at her, cold now. Measured. You know this doesn't end here. It does for me, Kara replied. She turned to leave. Behind her, he said, You think surviving makes you clean? She paused at the door. No. But it makes me useful. Then the medbay doors sealed, and silence returned. Kara stepped into the observation deck above the facility, watching Arcturon's crimson moons rise over the cliffs. The wind outside howled, distant and forgotten. She held a data chip in her hand, Saren's confession, fully encrypted. The Federation would bury it. Or pretend they never saw it. That part didn't matter. Because she had copies. And she wasn't done. Not yet. A voice buzzed in her earpiece. Lieutenant Voss, this is Command. Confirming assets secured and facility integrity maintained. Kara replied, voice flat. Confirmed. Awaiting your recommendation. She stared at the horizon, then said, Shut it all down. Repeat? Decommission Arcturon 7. Full scrub. I want no trace. Not of him. Not of me. A pause. Understood. She ended the call, removed her badge, and let it drop to the ground. No more codes. No more missions. She'd done her part. And if they came again? She wouldn't be the one unprepared. Because the assassin went after the nurse. And that was his last mistake.